afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Memory cafes began in Europe in the mid-1990s. The idea was to break through the stigma of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia that, at the time, simply weren't discussed out loud, let alone in polite society. This effort to normalize dementia is for patients and caregivers to discuss issues concerning aging well in Vermont and the therapeutic benefits of memory care. We're joined by Rick Neu. For over 20 years, Rick served as the interfaith chaplain at the University of Vermont Medical Center. He is currently pastor in charge of Shepherds of the Hill Lutheran Church in Montpelier and working on community relations and public policy at the Center on Aging at UVM's Lerner College of Medicine. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you. First, why don't you tell us what a memory cafe is?
Well, a memory cafe is a gathering place for people with memory loss or mild cognitive impairment who make a trip with their loved ones, their caregivers, to enjoy a time of relaxation, education, support. It's a great place to go.
And what happens at memory cafes?
Well, that kind of varies by memory cafe. Some memory cafes actually serve lunch here in Vermont. Other memory cafes have educational events. Others do all kinds of different activities, flower arranging, music. It can run the gamut.
And what kind of education are we talking about? Is it art classes?
Sure, well, I wouldn't say classes, but there are times of how do I want to say this? There are courses that they can take, but it's not necessarily a class. It's the way for people to express themselves artistically or musically or in writing poetry. There's a variety of ways that people experience the arts in a memory cafe.
And where can people find memory cafes in Vermont?
Well, we're gonna put a graphic up on the screen, which will show you the list of the cafes in Vermont currently, and there's also at the bottom of that list a short URL to go to the Center on Aging, where we have a list with all the details.
And older Vermonters are actually the fastest growing population in Vermont, and they recently passed in 2020 the Older Vermonters Act, which included an action plan to age well in Vermont. Can you talk about how Age Strong and memory cafes are kind of an integral part of that plan?
Sure. Yeah, the Age Strong Vermont plan has at its base dignity for people. So one of the things that a memory cafe does is gives the older adult with memory issues the self-determination to be in a group of people where they can experience their own dignity. It also gives them a place to have a socialization, because one of the things that we combat all the time with our older Vermonters is social isolation. And caregiver support is the third piece of this, where caregivers feel very isolated. In fact, that's the thing we hear most from caregivers, that they feel a sense of isolation because it's they and their loved one, and they feel really removed from other people. So when the folks with dementia and those who are caring for them can get together, everybody can be supported.
And a new memory cafe actually opened at the Fletcher Free Library in Burlington called the Lake Champlain Memory Cafe. And when did this start and how's it going?
Well, we started it in April, just this year. It's a collaboration between the Center on Aging, AgeWell, which is our AAA in Chittenden County, the Fletcher Free Library, of course, and the City of Burlington. It's an outgrowth of the work of the Burlington Aging Council. We've been working on the Aging Council for about 2 years on an age-friendly Burlington plan, and this is one of the pieces of low-hanging fruit. So we were able to get the cafe up and running in April.
So was there a lot of community involvement in getting this operational?
Not as much as you might think. It's really operational because of the groups that are involved. The library has been amazing in their hosting, and we actually host the cafe in the New North End branch of the library.
And who operates these? Is it volunteer based?
Well, right now it is the collaboration between AgeWell, the library, and the Center on Aging, and we are sharing responsibility for that. But there's always a opportunity for people to volunteer and to either help us by greeting people at the cafe or providing programming. So there's lots of ways for people to help.
And if I'm interested in lending my time, how should I reach out?
Oh, well, you can just send me an email. I'm the point person at the Center on Aging for the cafe. So you can send me an email or give me a phone call, and my information will be on the screen at some point.
Okay, great. And Vermont obviously has a number of cafes, as we talked about earlier, but what about other states? Is this something nationwide?
there is a movement across the country about the expansion of memory cafes. And I would say the best way or the easiest way to kind of do that if you're living out of state is to Google, and just Google memory cafes and see what's in your area.
And we already touched on this a little bit, but do you mind reiterating where can people find information about memory care centers?
Memory cafes, you can
Yes.
find those on our Center on Aging website, and that is there's a short link that's going to be on the screen, and you can also find information about memory cafes on the WCAX website.
And we spoke about this a little bit before the taping started, actually, but you were the chaplain at the UVM, at the hospital at UVMMC. And where do you find strength to do a job that at times can be kind of dark or bleak?
Well, it can be dark or bleak, but chaplain's work is also really kind of very rewarding. I think I find the strength in just being able to care about people. You know, we're all human beings having an experience together, and to help people find their linkages with their own spiritual selves, whether that's a religious expression or an expression in nature, you know, helping people make that connection is what makes the work so rewarding.
And you mentioned this a little bit, but can you discuss the importance of dignity in memory cafes and how important that is and what an integral part of these programs?
Sure. When people are experiencing memory loss, you know, many people in the process of losing their memory know what's going on, at least in the beginning. And so for people that are wondering about how their life is going to progress, being able to be somewhere where they are accepted, where they're welcomed, where whatever ability they have to contribute to conversation or activity, that's gladly accepted. I think that really helps people feel good about themselves, and they can feel important and feel like they're respected and cared for.
And you touched on this a minute ago, but can you talk about the impact of isolation, both for people experiencing memory loss and also their caregivers, and how the memory cafes help kind of combat that?
Mm-hmm. So when you have memory loss and you're caring for someone with memory loss, your world shrinks. You become involved with the person you're caring for, and the person with memory loss is involved with the person that is caring for them. And so your world becomes, instead of one large circle of people, it becomes a very small circle. And by necessity, from the caregiver perspective, everything you're focusing on is focusing on the needs of this person. So you no longer have the ability to go out and do for yourself, care for yourself in the ways that you used to. And the same thing is true for the person with dementia. What they used to find enjoyment in doing, they may not be able to do that anymore. They may not be able to, you know, go to the restaurant with friends or do the kinds of things that brought them joy in their lives. So everybody's life becomes so much more narrow, and by becoming more narrow, we become more isolated.
And you obviously work a lot with, in your time as a chaplain, or I believe you're a pastor in charge in Montpelier currently. Mm-hmm. How does faith kind of inform how you interact with with older Vermonters?
Well, you interact with older Vermonters like you do everybody else. You treat people the way the way you want to be treated, and you care about how they feel and what they think, and you just be the best human being you can be. And that's where my faith comes in. I have a lot of trust that people are who they say they are, and I take people at face value until I can't, and that's the way I've always lived my life, and because I want to think the best of people and I want to do the best for people.
And are you able to go to different memory cafes and kind of see them in action?
No, I haven't had that opportunity. But there are folks at the Center on Aging who have had that experience of starting memory cafes in the past, and then being involved with the start of the memory cafe that's in Middlebury.
And can you talk a little bit more about the volunteer opportunities if somebody at home maybe doesn't want to visit for themselves but wants to lend a hand?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot you can do at a memory cafe. from greeting people at the door to making things comfortable for people, to helping with providing snack or program, or just being there to interact with people and have a good time.
And what are people looking for when they're going to these cafes? What have you heard maybe incentivizes people to turn out?
I think being with people. You know, it's the how do I combat the isolation, being home alone, being away from what I used to know and what I used to do, and so I think people are looking for that socialization. I think they're looking for a good time. I think they're looking to enjoy themselves, and really to kind of have a few laughs. I mean, if I could talk about our last Memory Cafe, which was just a week or so ago, we had folks, mother and daughter, who did flower arranging, and our Memory Cafe in Burlington is an hour long. Well, people didn't leave. You know, they were there for another half hour or so, and just enjoying each other's company. And there were a group of friends that were planning to go around the corner to go to lunch. I mean, there was just a great spirit of friendship and camaraderie, and people just really enjoying themselves and having a good time.
And a lot of these times, the events are maybe for a period of time at a certain location. Is that right? It's not an established, like, open 5 days a week event.
No, right. Usually most Memory Cafes meet once a month, and ours in Burlington meets on the second Tuesday of the month.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. And for more information about Memory Cafes in Vermont, all of the contact information you'll need is on your screen. That takes care of another Across the Fence for today. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCAX. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.